This is Women for Gun Rights with your host Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.
Okay, here we are, learning how to run the buttons, but here we go. So folks, welcome to the inaugural show for the DC Project, which is Women for Gun Rights, and where we are going to feature women that are doing amazing things for the Second Amendment. And those women there's so many things that they do that we want to be able to talk about. But for the very first show, it is only fitting that we bring on Dianna Muller, who is the founder of the DC Project, who started to gather and connect all of these women to see what we could do with the power of a mass group. And so, hey, Dianna, thanks for joining us on the inaugural show of Women for Gun Rights.
Well, I want to thank you, Amanda, because you are fantastic to come up with this idea and to spearhead it, and you have the talent and the heart to do something like this. So I think it's fantastic, and I appreciate you having me on first.
Oh, well, it just, when you're sitting there and you're saying, who do you have and what do you do and how do you do it? I think that everybody needs to hear, and so they need to have an idea of how DC Project came about. And that's just fitting that it is the very first show as to how it came about and what happened. So first, start out with, tell folks who you are, where you started, and how it came about.
Okay, well, before that, since this is like new to everybody, and even me, tell me how this is going to work and what we're doing with this podcast.
Okay, so
and what it's going to happen.
So what happens is that we're exploring different things, and so we're not only podcasting, we are doing on-demand TV. So this show is a video show, it is a podcast show, it is on YouTube. So we're going to be multifaceted, multimedia, I guess, because there is a channel that is on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, and a few of the others that is called OpsLens. And so we are a show on OpsLens. And then the DC Project has their own YouTube channel, and so this is going on to that YouTube channel. And then podcasts are podcasts, so it'll be turned into one of those, stored and available on Stitcher and iTunes and that. And so it's multimedia, multifaceted. And if you can't catch it live on Friday evenings at 7 p.m., you can go back and find an archived show, and it'll be available in a couple different places.
So this is live?
This is live, so don't embarrass yourself.
Okay, I'll do my best. All right, so how did the DC Project start? The DC Project started because I'm a professional shooter now. I'm a retired police officer, but now since 2014, I'm a full-time professional shooter. And I found myself on the East Coast, close to Washington, D.C. My husband and then our friends Jerry and Lena Michalik were with us, and we tried to go out and do some things, touristy. So we wanted to go see DC, and a friend of mine, Jane Horton, who lives there, she said, well, do you want to meet your congressman? And I was very apathetic about it. I didn't care. I said, sure, that's what you do when you're in Washington, D.C. And it was when I was sitting there meeting with my congressman that I was like, hey, is there something that we should be doing as professional shooters to help educate the people in this building that are making some really horrendous decisions that affect us all and affect our nation? And it was really from there that I started wondering, is it even possible for little old citizens like myself to go to Washington, D.C. and meet our legislators and make a difference? Or does it need to be a big lobbyist? Or, I just didn't understand. I wasn't plugged in. I wasn't really paying attention to politics. And from there, I started chewing on it. And I realized that women are one of the fastest growing demographics in the firearms industry, and B, they can have a much stronger voice when it comes to speaking about the Second Amendment, because we break that stereotype. We don't look like the redneck, the cut off sleeves, the missing teeth, whatever it is that the anti-gunners think we are. We break that stereotype. So I started gathering women. I only wanted one from every state because I knew I only had standing in Oklahoma. So I started gathering one from every state. And really, in the beginning, I thought it was going to be professional shooters because we're easy to vet. You can trust us. We're champions, whatever. But I think God had a better plan for us. And there's not professional shooters in every state. So I started just hodgepodging, talking to women across the industry. And it worked out so much better because now we have a true cross section of what an American gun owner looks like. We have every demographic covered. We have age, religion, whatever it may be. The Second Amendment is really what holds us all together.
Oh, and that is so true. That the Second Amendment is the glue that binds this group. And I tell folks that when you do something with the DC Project, it's like going to summer camp with your heroes.
Yeah, if your heroes are Second Amendment warriors, then that's absolutely true. We do have a good time, and for whatever reason, the quality of girls that have come to this project are amazing, and it's just you talk about the Second Amendment holding everybody together. Earlier today I saw we have a post about Maj Toure up on the DC Project page, and man, somebody commented and said that he's transphobic and that associating with him is a detriment to your group. And I was like, well, first of all, I don't know that I've heard the transphobic language that he's talking about, but I came back and personally I was like, Maj has done so much for the Second Amendment, so much for the Black community, so much for the urban community. And for you to say that it's a negative to associate with him, we don't have to agree. There are women, we're nonpartisan. We don't agree.
Right.
There are hardcore liberal left-leaning Democrats in our group that do not necessarily. I'm much more in the middle to the right, and I don't agree with their views on what we should be doing outside the second. So it's really something that I think that our community can learn from, is that we need to stay focused, put our blinders on, and stay focused on the Second Amendment, stay focused on the Constitution. I don't care if you're a masker, a vaxxer, a transgender, whatever else might come into your world. That has nothing to do with me. We are Second Amendment only issue, one issue group.
Well, yesterday I had the opportunity to listen to one of our elected officials, actually out of Georgia, I think, Marsha Blackburn. And so Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, and she said, if we agree on 80%, that doesn't mean that we're 20% enemies. And right. So celebrate the 80% that you agree on, and then move on. But that's what makes us kind of unique. That's what makes us individuals. And everybody has their own opinions on a variety of things, and so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
funny when we talked about the Second Amendment being blue, we really do have to forget the cancel culture and forget that that's kind of what's normal these days. That's not normal. We do need to focus on the things that hold us together, and the flag and the Constitution are what holds us together.
I very much agree with that. So, okay, so you had been in DC and you talked to your congressman, and then you said, okay, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to bring professional shooters, and then it expanded. So what did it look like in the beginning?
Well, what it looked like in the beginning, the first time we went to Washington, D.C. as a group was February of 2016. And basically it was our test baby. And we had like 14 girls that that agreed to come on their own dime, on their own time. And we broke up into smaller groups and we made appointments with our legislators and we kind of felt our way around Washington, D.C., started to understand, you know, the orientation of where the buildings were, where the offices were, and things like that. So after that trip, it was like, we can do this. Let's try to get one woman from every state to come back. And we did. I think it was that summer. I can't remember, June, July. And we had maybe 36 women that came, and we break up into smaller groups, 4, 5, 6 at the most women, and we try to spread the stories out. So whatever demographic you represent, we don't want everybody from Iowa going to Iowa. We want New York. We want California. We want the diversity highlighted in each of the meetings. So we really cut and paste people going together. They pre-do their meetings. They make meetings a couple of weeks out, and then they take off once we get there. And it's really a grassroots effort, a grassroots lobbying effort. You know, Mom's Demand is kind of the exact opposite of who we are. And I'm really proud that we are the group that is positioning ourselves to say, whoa, 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 whoa. You do not speak for all moms. You do not speak. You stop bullying all of the Second Amendment legislators. You stop spreading your misinformation. And that's why I'm hopeful about this endeavor of yours. I don't know whether to call it a podcast or what, since you rattled off all those different things. But this effort, you know, is going to spread true information and counter what the world is being sold as truth, because it is not. It is scare tactics. They do not own tragic stories. We have very, very many women in our group that will tell you that they have been victimized and they will do whatever it takes, up to including carrying a gun, to make sure it doesn't ever happen again.
So if you listen to the left, it says that if you've been victimized, you will never have a gun. You don't want a gun anywhere near you. You want all guns taken away from everybody. And you're saying that's not true?
Well, and we all do. We all look at this as a partisan issue. The Second Amendment, you mentioned the left. It's not left and it's not liberal. It is anti-gun,
You're
and
right.
Democratic platform has accepted, really accepted that. And it's really up to our liberal brothers and sisters in the firearms industry to push back on that, saying, hey, wait, this is a constitutional issue. This is not a left and right issue. So we all fall into it because it is very political anymore, and it is very divisive. So it seems like if you are a gun owner, you're right leaning, you're conservative, and if you aren't a gun owner, if you want guns restricted, then you're left leaning. And our audience, I'm telling this to our audiences, that we cannot fall into that trap, and we cannot continue to spread that lie. Just remember that this is a constitutional issue. This is not a partisan issue, and do not let your mainstream media, do not let the anti-gunners own a specific party.
Yeah, you're right. You are so right. And it's just so easy to pop out the L word when you see that the Democratic platform is actually written into their platform that it's anti-gun, and so it's easy to group them all together. And I know that on the Republican platform, I don't agree with 100% of what it is, and so I see exactly what you're saying, because I'm sure that there are people who vote on as a straight D ticket that don't agree with everything that is in the Democratic platform. And so thanks for the correction on that. So
No problem. It's something that we all, it's very easy to do. And honestly, I honestly believed that for the longest time, until I ran into my first Democrat gun owner, and I said something about a libtard. And then she's like, it's me. And
that
I
would
was
be
like,
me.
really? I was like, you can agree with me on the Second Amendment issue, because I can completely, if we agree on this, then it does bind us together. So that's when I really started, that's several years ago, and I really started realizing that my language, I was wrong. I honestly didn't think that any Democrats really embraced it. But since I've been in the Second Amendment advocacy space, I have definitely met several and been corrected.
Because of that. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so recently, I've got a couple clips that I want to play, but one of them I'm going to lead in with this, and I'd like you to tell the story. We've got a quick interview or a quick statement from Thomas Massey, and so could you tell the background of what came about as to how did we end up with Thomas Massey talking about the DC project?
Sure. It's been, we've been in Washington, D.C. for many years now. So I think this is our sixth, seventh year coming up. And we've been developing relationships. That's what we know. That's what makes the world go around, is the relationships. So this year, when we went back on a chance, because everything was still shut down. This is April of 2021, and one of the fences had come down, but the other fence was still up around the Capitol. So it was very much still shut down with COVID. And we took a chance and took a small contingent of DCProject women to Washington, D.C., and we landed a meeting with the Second Amendment caucus on the House side. And and Congressman Massey and Congressman Boebert are the co-chairs of that. What's it called? It's not a committee. It's a
The Second
caucus.
Amendment Caucus.
Yeah, of that caucus. And so all 10 of us got to speak for a couple of minutes apiece. But what we wanted to do was really let them know that we are here for them, and we are here to provide armor against any of the attacks on the Second Amendment. You can use us. You can use our voices. You can use our stories and things like that. And Congressman Massey really got it.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so we're gonna flip over to this screen and we're gonna hear him, and then when we come back, more questions. So hang on, listen to this.
Hi, I'm Congressman Thomas Massey. I'm co-chair of the Second Amendment Caucus. I am so excited that the DCProject came here this evening. We've never had a turnout of this many congressmen for a Second Amendment Caucus meeting before in my life. And these ladies were so compelling. The members who were here, I could see they were really engaged. There's some members who are here who they're pro Second Amendment, but they don't really know how to articulate or how to motivate our argument for the Second Amendment. But these ladies actually gave us a voice today. And I know we're going to be able to make better arguments in our hearings, on the floor, in debates. And I know we're going to be able to hold the line because DCProject came here tonight.
This is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DCProject.
So there we go. So, I mean, I think it's so great that the comments that he has to say about the DCProject, and the fact that there was such a good turnout. That's pretty positive, I think. I mean, what's your thoughts?
No, I thought that he really hit the nail on the head when it comes to what we can do. I mean, like I said, the anti-gun groups have been battering our legislators for years. And the gun issue is one of those things that is a hot topic, and they are very well funded. They are very well motivated. They're very well organized. And we've seen it when we go to Washington, D.C. We see their protests, we see their rallies, we see their visual things. They put the shirts out one year, they put the shoes out another year. So they go to great lengths to bully our legislators into accepting more restrictions. So for us to be able to provide a counter voice to those attacks, and for us to be able to provide armor for them, and to absolutely 100% what I think the DCProject is skilled at and valuable in.
Okay, so the group went to DC. What kind of response did they get from their elected representatives?
Well, remember things. The offices were even shut down, so we had a couple of meetings. I had a couple of meetings. One with my senator from Kansas, and I know some other girls got some meetings, individual meetings. But really, our big deals was the Second Amendment Caucus, because we got to talk to over 20, I think it was 28 members um, at one time, and then we also got to talk to the Senate Judiciary staff, who actually invites people to speak, to testify. So after that meeting in April of 2021, we had Nikki Gosier from Tennessee. She testified in the House, or in the Senate Judiciary Committee on red flag laws. And then to follow that up, we had another uh, hearing on ghost, and Ashley Vinsky out of Arizona testified in that. And then to follow up on that, there was another hearing on how to prevent gun violence. It was very broad. That was on the House Judiciary Subcommittee, and I testified in it. So it was wham, bam, bam. All these gun-related hearings were being proposed by the Democrats. And when we go and testify like that, we are severely outnumbered, because the Democrats are in control of the House, and I was only one this past May when I testified. I was the only pro 2A person there against 4 or 5 antis that they had invited. So it's important. I really believe that our testimony is at least putting up a speed bump uh, to their little steamroller that's running down the road.
Okay, so you've testified a couple times. So what was it like? Tell us about the preparation and getting ready to do a testimony.
Oh, it's so the first time I testified was in 2019, and when National Shooting Sports Foundation is the one who connected me to. At the time, it was Congressman out of Georgia, and he was the ranking member. And I said, if I'm the right person, I will most certainly do this. But if you can find somebody better, please don't. It's not going to hurt my feelings for me not to do it, because I knew how important it was. I knew how we would be outnumbered. It was 5-2 on that one. There were 2 pro 2A witnesses and then 5 anti-witnesses. So I knew the impact of the responsibility that was on whoever was going to testify's shoulders. So I had about a month to prepare for that one, and it was pretty grueling. Your written testimony can be as long as you want, so you can write anything you want, but you're only guaranteed a 5-minute opener. And it's very much a game. I learned that the first time that I testified. I don't know if it's all parliamentary procedures or what, but everybody has 5-minute openers. Everybody gets 5 minutes later. You can't talk unless you're spoken to or asked a question. I say that it's like somebody's passing you the ball. So if I want you to answer a question, I'll pass you the ball, and you catch the ball, and you answer the question, and then they have 5 minutes. They can pass the ball to somebody else if they want. So it was very interesting to learn all of that and understand how the game works. But it's very, very, very stressful. And this past time in May, I had about a week to prepare. And my topic was so broad that I felt like I wanted to write everything down. So I ended up with 12 pages of testimony that I submitted to for the record, and then I had to whittle that down to the right 5-minute opener. So there was a lot. It was like I wrote a thesis in 4 days. I was pretty wiped out.
Okay, so I want to go back to the first time you testified, because you were testifying about the assault weapons ban hearing in 2019. And you say that there were 2 people who were pro Second Amendment and 4 or 5 who were anti. Is there any names there that we would recognize?
On the anti side, the other pro 2A witness was Amy Swearer. She works for the Heritage Foundation, which is the conservative think tank. The antis, I remember specifically, I got berated by the police chief from Charlottesville. I can't remember her name. But if you remember, if you go back to that 2019 testimony, I was in a line of questioning that made me go down this rabbit hole of ultimately saying that if you do this unconstitutional thing, I will not comply. And so next time she got the ball passed to her, she really berated me. I can't believe you would not comply with the law and blah, blah, blah. So, but like Jerry Nadler, I mean, if you want to know the people that are on that committee, Jerry Nadler was the committee chair at the time, and he was very taken aback by me that time and this most recent time that I testified. He kind of berated me again. So,
Well,
yeah,
your first testimony, the assault weapons ban hearing,
oh,
the
I know where you're
person
going.
the person who's sitting beside you that now
Oh yeah. What's his name?
David Chipman. So
Yeah.
so the guy who testified counter to your message is the man that right now President Biden has nominated to be the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And so every time, or not every, but almost every time they pop up with his picture, your picture is right beside it. And so it's like, okay, so just knowing that David Chipman is standing there saying this, and the DC Project is right there in his shadow, or either leading or following in that message, because we're gonna haunt his his record, I think, at this point, because
right.
you'll see you and that famous pink dress in those pictures every single time.
You're right. I have seen a lot of the pictures circulating, whether it's me to the left, to his right, or if it's Ryan, my husband, sitting right behind him, or it's that teal visual. Because if you
Okay.
get it from the right angle, this is something great to bring up, because this is one of our biggest accomplishments, I believe, is the counter visual to Moms Demand Action. When I got asked to testify, we knew that Moms Demand would be in the gallery. They would have a visual of their red Moms Demand shirt. So we started thinking about what can we do to have a visual. Teal has been in our community a lot with NRA Women, with WOMA. Teal just came to mind. I don't know if it was because it was subliminal in there or not, but we devised a teal shirt, and I'm really proud of. Here's my little mask. Our little educate, not legislate shirt.
Yep. There you go. Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we came up with that design, and it has some AR-15s on it, and we believe that education is the key to safety. But we had blazers on. We all look very professional. Where we aren't like Moms Demand is that we are very professional. We're very kind spirited, and we don't go into bully mode. We go into relationship mode. But I was really proud of us, because that was the beginning of our Teal for 2A campaign. And we invite all of the women within the firearms industry and within any organization to, when you're going to go to a hearing, when you're going to go to a rally, to throw something teal on and look the solidarity that we actually are. Create that image, create that visual that, that's a gun owner. And we did that from 2019 on, just from that one hearing, and being forced to solve a problem or come up with a solution to counter a message that we knew that was wrong.
Well, I think it's a message that the Teal for 2A, it resonates. It really does. So if somebody's interested in being involved in the DC Project, how do they go about it?
Well, they visit dcproject.info, and there's a landing page there, and they can join, they can support. We don't have a protocol really for men. We want to hear from the men. We want to absorb them, but we don't necessarily use them as the focal point of speaking our message, because it is trying to counter the women's misinformation campaign with the women's voice using the truth. So we invite anybody to come on in, and if you have ideas, if you have things that, let's do a fundraiser together, or let's do a class together, or anything like that, just go to dcproject.info and contact us there, join, support, or buy a t-shirt that says educate, not legislate.
So there's a little bit of all of that. So what is your role? You were the founder, but what's your role in the DC Project?
Oh boy. I want to say this about the DC Project is none of us are paid, and all of us, there are 3 people on the board, the real board, but we have an advisory board of women that are amazing. You are on that board, Kelly Pigeon, Holly Sullivan from Connecticut. She's our legal advisor. Laura Evans from New York, our marketing and her a publicist type person. Beth Walker is our social media guru. Robin Sandoval is our graphics guru. Stephanie Schaefer is our organization and our calm voice. Have I missed anybody?
No, I think that runs through the group pretty well.
Kelly, did I say Kelly? Kelly is our kind of our financial guru. But I didn't go out seeking an advisory board. I didn't go out, we just started talking, and it just seemed like this was organically what became the most amazing advisory board ever. And I appreciate that. It's been a blessing, and I appreciate what you bring to the table.
So it's pretty cool watching everybody say, okay, I got this, you got that, you run with this, whatever that is. And so, I mean, typically when you see leader type people, they're like, I want to be in charge. And the dynamics of the DC Project is that they're all, or almost all of them, are leader type people, and they're like, as long as somebody's in charge, I can follow along just as well. So tell me, what role am I filling right here? And then we run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all type A for sure. Well, I think Laura and Robin and Stephanie are type A minus, but we have some strong personalities, and our board meetings can get a little hot. But you ask what my role is, and I'm like, I don't know. I just stir the pot and keep the train going, feed it some wood, the engine, and just keep it going.
So let's see. I want to play the testimony that you did in the second, the general kind of, what was the topic for your second testimony that happened actually in 2020? It was 2020, 2020, it was 2021, right?
Yeah, it was just this May.
Okay, so in May, so was it just general, we don't like guns topic, or what was the ask to begin with?
It was the name of the hearing was called something like Epidemic Gun Violence, Steps to Reduce Gun Violence. So my written testimony, like I said, was 12 pages long.
So, okay, so we run with the statement that my gun's not violent. So let's start right there. But folks, I want you to hear this. It's a little long, but this is in the question and answer period. So if somebody's got a period of time and they can ask questions, then you get to interact as the secondary. This is past your opening, but into the question and answer. Okay, so we'll be back, but pay attention to this because it's good stuff.
We have to protect our children like we protect the people in this building. You guys use guns. You put a wall up. The hypocrisy doesn't go unnoticed. You put military people with guns everywhere. If that's what it takes to protect our schools, that's what I expect Congress to do. It's not brain surgery. I want to protect the kids.
So, is it a good idea to defund the police?
No, sir.
You spent time as a law enforcement officer, isn't that right? That's
Yes,
your
sir.
background? Retired law enforcement officer. How many years? 20 some years? I think?
22.
22 years. Who'd you end up retiring? What police department?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, so not some small town. This is not small town officers are just as important as large cities, but this is in a big city.
Correct.
You dealt with all kinds of stuff. You dealt with gang violence. I think you said you were on the gang violence task force and did work with that.
I did.
Yes, you've dealt with some tough situations. What do you think of these extreme protection orders?
Well, I think that the Supreme Court of the United States just had something to say about it. They just had a ruling at the end of last week. I don't even know what day it is, so forgive me. But recently that they struck it down, I believe in Maryland or somewhere. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue because here's my background on extreme protection orders. We already have a vehicle to help people who are in crisis. We have a vehicle to hold the 72 hours and get a psychological evaluation. A red flag law, like going and taking somebody's guns, removing one means of having an issue, where is the compassion in helping somebody by removing their means to defend themselves if they should need it during that time that they're in crisis?
Especially, Ms. Muller, if I could, especially when the process for removing that, the person who's going to be losing their firearm, losing their Second Amendment liberties, doesn't even get to be a part of that initial hearing.
Correct. And Mr. Massey brought up Nikki, who, she went through a traumatic incident. She saw her husband murdered. This extreme protection orders could affect her because if somebody says, hey, Nikki's not having a great day, I think that you probably need to go pick up her guns. When this guy that killed her, the stalker that killed her husband, is still stalking her from prison, how would that there's just so many unintended consequences when it comes to red flag orders, let alone the constitutionality.
Or what about this scenario? What about a family of someone that you arrested and went away to prison, and the family doesn't like you? And they go say, well, this Muller lady, she believes in the Second Amendment. I think I saw a Trump flag in her yard. I don't like her. And they file this thing, and you get the right kind of hearing where you don't get to go defend yourself at that hearing, and they come take your firearm. Those are the kind of scenarios that scare me. And we know in this cancel culture world that we live in, those kind of things happen all the time. Or how about this scenario? How about you have to go enforce an EPO? So you're the officer. Go back 10 years, 12 years ago, whenever you were a member of the Tulsa Police Department, and you've dealt with all kinds. You got to go now enforce it. And you got to go knock on the door and tell Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, hey, they just took your gun away. I'm here to take it. There was a proceeding. Now, you weren't a part of it, just your Second Amendment liberties. You weren't a part of it, but I got to take your gun. That may not be the best situation either for a cop to be walking into, would it?
And your Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to trample on your Second and your Fourth. It's very dangerous for police officers, extreme protection. But, I was struck by us saying that we want to do nothing. I gave 12 pages of testimony of things that I want to do, and everybody's talking about laws and things that I have ideas, and that's what I'm saying is a big injustice, is that you're not listening to me. It's the anti-gun people are so closed off to anything but their own agenda that they can't hear that we have measurable results in firearms education, and that we should be teaching our kids how to properly and safely be around firearms. It's just like water safety.
Well, Ms. Muller, if I you're doing great, but I promised my colleague and friend, Mr. Massey, I'd yield him some time, and I'm down to 40 minutes.
This is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the...
Okay, so I think that you knocked that out of the park. Because you know this stuff cold. And so when they have a conversation, the fact that you know so much information allows you to just kind of pull it out and put it out there in a manner to where a lot of the people who are testifying are prepped and prompted, and that's that. And then they get to the question and answer part, and they're like, I got nothing.
Well, thanks for saying that, because it doesn't feel like it always comes easy to me either. So, um, when I said something about it's not brain surgery, to my right, I was looking to my right, and that was Mr. Fred Gutenberg, who had lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting, and he had made that comment about this isn't brain surgery. We know what to do. Take away guns. He was also pushing a bill that would require background checks for ammunition. And I'm looking at him going, this is nothing that you are pushing would have saved your daughter that day. Nothing that you're pushing is going to make a difference when it comes to actual safety among America. And so that's why I had said, this isn't brain surgery. You guys are doing it. You can do it anywhere you want, but I don't believe they want a solution to the problem. I believe that they want to campaign, they want to raise money, and they want to do some feel-good things that, in their opinion, which are not expert opinions, will make a difference.
Okay. And yeah, I think you're right. The whole feel good. So we're just do something, even if it's wrong, but it'll
Right.
feel better if we do this, or if we take some action or whatever. But fundraising. Let's talk on fundraising. How is the anti-gun agenda funded, and how is the pro-gun agenda funded?
Well, you will probably remember the guy that ran for the presidency that used his own money, Mr. Bloomberg, and he is the one that is backing Bloomberg, Soros, all the big names that you hear of that really push agendas, the liberal agenda, and I would say almost Marxist, socialist, communist agenda, are behind the anti-gun groups. Moms Demand Action had a $36 million budget in 2019. There was a $60 million budget in this election cycle in 2020. And how are we funded? DCProject specifically, we're funded by people that look like us. We are gaining so much traction, and I believe that we're doing such good work that there are people in our industry who are paying attention and recognizing that if we had more gas in the tank, that we could go further. So we've got some great partners coming on board and helping us move the ball down the field.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to help in some manner to fund, because it's people just like us, how do they do it? How do they go about helping to fund?
Oh, they go to our website, dcproject.info. You can donate there. You can buy shirts there. You can contact us there. What we really need to do is, A, make sure your legislators know who you are, and make sure your legislators know who we are. Let them know if you're really plugged in, say, hey, have you heard of the DC Project? There are women that are speaking out for the Second Amendment. If you ever need the visual, if you ever need the voice, if you ever need the stories, that they can call on us to help them, and to, like I said earlier, to give them armor. So it's really about getting the message out, and it's really about obviously money is what makes the world go around, but if they can provide a fundraiser, or if they can tell other people that are like-minded that would want to donate or provide a fundraiser or a reception or a murder mystery or whatever it is that we can do, let's go to the range and host something. We are open to suggestions. Let's do a sporting clays fundraiser, whatever it is. We would be more than happy to partner with people who have great ideas and maybe great venues to do stuff like that.
Okay, well, that kind of brings us right to the states and the state leaders, because you said in the beginning, you started out saying we were doing this with one person from every state, and that's not where you're at now. Where are you at now?
That is not. That's where we are at right now. So when we started out, I didn't want to have an organization. I didn't want it to be a big deal. I just wanted to be effective. Well, now it was so effective that now the doors are open and we are inviting everybody in. But 2020 really helped us in the fact that we couldn't go to Washington, D.C., but that didn't stop us from growing. That actually made us grow. we realized that after we saw Virginia fall in 2019, 2020, that we were like, the fight is really in the States. We really need these women who've been going to Washington, D.C. to turn around and go back home and start a similar effort in their home state. So that's what we did. And we have state directors in all of the states. I think we're missing a couple, but that's our goal, is to have a state director in every state and have an effort go to the state capitals at least once a year, keep their eyes open for any kind of legislation, any kind of hearings, any kind of rallies, that we can be a visual and a counter visual and a counter voice.
Okay, and so then when you lead that right back to the fundraisers, that means that you've got boots on the ground in pretty much every state, that anybody, any place that says, I want to do something here, there, wherever that is, we've got people, and those
Right.
people can come and help.
Right. And we're trying, we are literally grassroots. We don't have any special knowledge. We don't have any special training. That's kind of funny, because when the state directors come on board, they're like, well, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, join the club. We don't know what we're doing either. We're just doing it, getting it done. So go out and do something. That's the big cry from the antis, is you have to do something. And I'm like, hey, we are doing something. We have all of these measurable results of, firearms education in schools, and Kids Safe Foundation, and trigger locks, and we are the firearms experts, and we are the safety experts. If you are ever around any kind of firearms owner, you know that you don't put your finger in the trigger, and you don't point at anything you're not going to be willing to kill, and you know what your background is. I mean, people will put your glasses on. We don't give anybody any slack. So we are the firearms experts, and so yeah.
Well, I think that makes so much sense, that and women, the face of the Second Amendment is really, really changing. I mean, they had for years marketed to big burly guys with beards and plaid shirts, and then they switched to trying to market to women. They didn't quite know how to do that, and so the term in the late 80s, beginning of the 90s was shrink it and pink it. Make it a little smaller and make it pink, and they'll buy it, right? And it's not that anymore. I mean, now you have conversations, or hear conversations of women say, they talk about quality first, and then they talk about style or fashion or whatever that comes with it. But it starts with, I know my stuff, I know what I want, I know what I don't want, and I know why I want it. What are you hearing in that?
No, I think that you see women growing in the shooting sports. You see definitely personal protection and hunting. I mean, the women demographic is definitely exploding, and we have a lot of work to do within our own community. I mean, if you walk into a gun store, you still may, what do you need, little missy? You may run into some of that, but you can't get offended. You got to have a little bit more thick skin than that to take that opportunity to teach them that, hey, I'm looking for an AR with a 16-inch barrel, and a comp, and this, and put them. You don't have to argue with them, or you don't have to get mad at them. You can just start talking your stuff, or if you don't know, just own it. Say, I am a first-time gun owner. Teach me. Because we are pretty much a very inviting group for the most part, I think, at least from the shooting sports side, which is where I'm from. I mean, we'll give you the shirt off our back, and we're very, very welcoming. But I'm sure that doesn't. So if you know your stuff, you can say you know your stuff. Just don't get argumentative. And then if you don't know your stuff, just throw yourself on the sword and say, help me.
I mean, I think that everybody starts as a beginner, and so there's no, my mom used to say, there's no spots on you if you find that there's something you don't know, you just ask. And and you be human about it, and go from there. So what we're down to the last 10 minutes. But what is what's coming up for the DC Project? What are the next places that people can see us, or see you, or see the DC Project, and what are they doing there while they're there?
Okay. Well, we have like 6 events coming up. First of all, I'm going to consult the calendar because I don't, like I said when I testified, I don't even know what today is. So you guys, I think you're going to Detroit to the Rick Ector event is that next weekend?
Next weekend, yes.
Wow. So next weekend, you guys are going to go to Detroit. Rick Ector has an amazing women's, what's it called? Tell us about it because it's amazing. It's like 2,000 women.
4,000 is his goal this year, to
Oh
introduce
my gosh.
4,000 women to guns and to shooting. And so it's an introductory program. And Rick borrows volunteers, instructors from across the country to come and help him do this. And there's a lot of moving parts. The
So
DC Project.
if somebody's interested in that, how do they find it?
They can look up Rick Ector at Legally Armed in Detroit, which is his business. So he is
Okay.
he's got I think it's Detroit's Firearms Academy, but it's Legally Armed in Detroit. I know for positive that it is. But we've got gals coming from Chicago, from Illinois,
Nebraska.
Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio, and Michigan that are all going up there to volunteer their time and to help out. And we're also doing a kind of an introduction to the DC Project at a couple tables just to let people know that the DC Project exists up there. So it's a little bit of both. So I think almost everybody who's going is a firearms instructor. And that's another beauty of the DC Project is there's so many instructors that are doing things
Right.
all over the country. But that's the Rick Ector event that's happening on the 20th and 21st or 21st, 22nd, something like that.
And not only are we participating in the training part, but we're giving away a gun there, right? A SIG.
We are. We've got so anybody who
A
signs
SIG
up.
drawing.
Yeah, that weekend, if you sign up for the DC Project, then you're in the drawing for a SIG P365. So
Which is an amazing carry gun.
it really is an amazing carry gun. I actually have gone to gun sight and I took a Masad Ayub class with that gun.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you asked about other, there are several events, so let me get on with it.
Yeah.
I know that Beth and Laura are going to go to the Well Armed Women National Conference. I think that's in South Carolina, North Carolina area,
I'm not
towards
sure.
the end of August. And then there's a bunch of us going to NRA, the NRA annual meetings in Houston the first weekend of September. And you are putting on a concealed carry fashion show, which the DC Project is going to have a big part in. So where can they find tickets for that?
The path is not the easiest path is go to eventbrite.com and then use the search bar for concealed CCW fashion. That's the easiest.
Okay.
So it's an eventbrite.com ticket. Otherwise, there's all these little code words that go in the middle of it, and it's trying to just do a search and you'll find it. Houston.
Yeah, and I know we'll have it on our social medias as well. And what else are we doing? I'm going to go to a match. I've got some other things going on, not DCP related. Oh, the Rod of Iron. The Rod of Iron is in October 8th, 9th. It's that weekend.
Correct.
And you've been to that festival before, so tell everybody about it.
So there's a lot of things that are going to happen at that festival. So they are bringing in Dana Lash to help us do a fundraiser for the DC Project, and so there's an event, kind of a mocktail event that's going to happen on Saturday as a fundraiser for the DC Project. There's going to also be a concealed carry fashion show. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 different girls that are teaching seminars at the Rod of Iron. Tommy Gun Warehouse and the Rod of Iron is trying very hard to create the largest Second Amendment God and Guns festival in the United States. And I think last year their head count was like 3,000 people that came to their
That's
weekend's
awesome.
event. And so they're
I'm
growing.
really excited about that.
They're growing and they're continuing to grow. I think that there's also an event that is taking place in Virginia in September before we get to October. So
Oh, is that where Shirley's going?
I I think
I'm losing track.
I know. I was just talking to Kelly about that event to get the details. When we get the details, we'll have it next week. Because next week I'm going to interview Kelly Pigeon, and Kelly Pigeon is the Pennsylvania state rep, and she is the Region 1 district leader, and so she'll have more details about that event. But there's lots of events that are happening, and we want to share them with everybody who's watching, because that way, if you're someplace in the area, you could come and join us, meet up, hear the story, and get to know some of the DC Project folks. So what's after that?
And be sure and follow. If nothing else, be sure and follow our social media. On Facebook, we are the DC Project, and on Instagram, we are DC Project or DC_Project Foundation, I believe it is. But we will, when we go to places and things like that, we will prep on our social media sites.
So you get to see it. So I know that there's something that's coming up after the Rod of Iron that is bigger than everything else we've talked about really so far.
What's that?
The summit?
Oh, well, the summit this year, we want to eventually have like a conference for everybody. So we're going to call it a summit. We're going to invite everybody. But this year, this is not a big deal because we are using the summit as our state director training. And we're really going to try to equip our girls and on what they need to be doing, and let them get their feet wet and do some training, internal training, and then 2022 be watching out for the summit that'll be open to everybody.
See, it's growing and we're learning and there's practice and there's stuff, and so it's all really good. I mean, when you're on the outside looking at the DC Project, it is comforting to know that the states are growing, that the summit's happening, that fundraisers are happening, that the different things are happening in different places, because it shows that it's got legs, and that it's got stability, and that it'll be around to continue to fight this fight. So we're down to 3 minutes. So if you wanted to say to somebody, what's the DC Project really about and how can they help out, what would you say?
Well, the DC Project is really about preaching the truth, which is that education, not legislation, is the key to safety, that you are your own first responder, that gun rights are women's rights. So if you believe in those things, that those are shared values, that please join us. Visit dcproject.info. And whether you join us and just become a volunteer, or you support by giving some money, or getting a t-shirt, or giving us an idea, or giving us your time or your talent, we would love to just build a sea of women that love the Constitution and love the Second Amendment.
Okay, so that's the sea of women is one of your visions. So why don't you talk? We've talk about the picture that you had taken at SHOT Show and what your goal is for the next time you have that opportunity.
Well, we have, honestly, the $36 million budget from Moms Demand Action, we're going to use that. We're going to do what they do and just create our own truth and visual and truth and voices. So I've seen pictures of hundreds and thousands of them in red shirts and creating that visual that they are a sea of anti-gun women. So I want to create the same thing, that we are a sea of, teal for 2A. That's where the teal for 2A is going, is that we are creating a visual that counters that anti-gun message, that we are women, we love our families, and we want to be able to protect them.
Well, that's the message right there. We are women, we love our families, and we want to be able to protect them. I don't think that you could summarize the DC Project any better than that right there. And so on that note, we're going to end the show. Dianna Muller, thank you so much for being the inaugural show. And the time just flew. Hope you folks, that you're enjoying this. And stay tuned every week, Friday night, 7 p.m., and we will have more and more amazing women.
Thank you, Amanda.
This is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.